I'm plant-based Gabriel, and today I'm going to show you how we turn this into this to double and triple our pepper yields. We're talking pruning peppers. I hope you can stick around and see exactly how I do it. Time to prune some peppers. If you followed along, you'll have maybe hopefully watched, my thinning my peppers video where I went in and I sowed multiple seeds in each cell, and then I went through and just snipped off the one that wasn't growing as well so that I have one solid growing pepper plant in each of these cells. This is a 72 cell flat, which means there's just 72 soil circles there. Inside of here I've got some really well grown peppers, if you can tell. I mean, they are growing fantastically, but they are starting to overcrowd each other. And what we really want to do is create a fork in this pepper, because right now we've got about 3 or 4 growing like this. And what we want to do is take off the top 2 leaves in that stem to allow a fork to form on this stem, and then that plant's going to bush out much more. You can do this multiple times, but when I started these in February, it kind of cut my season down, so I'm only going to be able to cut them one time, or prune them one time, so we're going to have one fork, which will be perfectly fine. What you're going to look for is, we have, like this guy right here, we're going to see we're going to look for our leaves. So what we have is 2 cotyledon leaves, which are the lowest leaves, and those do not help photosynthesize much. So we want to be aware of those, and we're not going to cut above them. You can see forking happen there, but we're not going to leave those to be the only photosynthesizers. But on top of those cotyledon leaves, we have our first 2 true leaves. And that is where we are going to cut, because those 2 leaves are going to photosynthesize, and then right there in the wedge between the stem and that leaf, that is where we're going to see new growth happen. And hopefully we're going to have 2 new growths, which is going to fork that plant out, make it bushier, and make it much more sturdy compared to a pepper plant that only has 1 stem, where if you have a lot of peppers, you're going to see some moving around, you're going to see some sagging, and if you're full of peppers, have a heavy wind, and you've only got 1 stem, good chance of snapping. You're going to normally have to stake those guys up. If you prune these effectively, you will not have to stake them. Of course, depending on the pepper variety, that kind of changes a little bit, but on most peppers, if you prune them well, you have good forking, a nice bushy plant, you won't have to stake them. So on this plant, we have 2 cotyledons, and then we have our first 2 true leaves, and right above those, we got the growth that we're going to snip off. Now this is tough for a lot of people. Many people do not actually do this, because it's tough, because you put a lot of work in these plants, and if you look at that, that does not look like a super healthy plant anymore. But you've got to trust me on this and watch some more videos to know that I'm just not just a kook who's telling you to do this. I am doing this because it is beneficial to the plant, it's beneficial to my harvest, and it really just allows for much stronger growth. So just pop that in, and you're going to go through a whole flat like this. Won't take And there we have it, a perfectly pruned flat of peppers. Hopefully you'll be able to see the big difference in how they look. One bonus of this is, especially in a flat like this, you might notice that some peppers came up a little bit slower than others, because in this flat I could have had, I think, 12 different varieties. I have 6 in this one, but like these pimento L's came up much slower, and so they were getting shaded out by these big leaves. Pruning back these will actually give those pimentos right here a good chance to catch up with some of the other plants. And then I might have to go back and prune those, but as slow as they're growing, I might just chance it with keeping them single stemmed. So let's go in and we'll show you the exact difference in the plants and just talk about maybe a few more of the benefits in pruning your pepper plants. there is the method I use to prune my peppers to not only double, but sometimes triple my production harvests. And really it comes down to building a stronger base to that plant. Now, if this is your first year growing peppers, or you've grown peppers for a long time and you have never pruned them, I was right there. I was a first year pepper grower, farmer, and I did not believe what I was seeing on the internet, that I should kill what I thought was half my pepper plant, slop off that top half. And so I didn't do it. And what I was left with were, well, first of all, my grow lights weren't that great then. They're extremely much better now. But I did not do it, and I had plants that when the wind blew, they just went here and there and here and there. And when they were full of fruit, they just flopped over. And so I was left with having to stake up a ton of pepper plants, and I was left with less harvest than I would have ever got because they were only growing and fruiting along that main stem. Whereas if we can go in and prune them now, we're going to create two main growth centers along those two first true leaves, not the two cotyledon leaves, but the first two true leaves, and then we're going to have a stakier plant. And again, you can go in, if you start your peppers early enough, which I wish I would have, but the holidays and everything just came up, so I did not have the amount of time. But if you actually do have time, you can go in when you have these two growth centers and cut them again and create four, and you're going to have a double forking pepper plant, which is not going to be blowing around in the wind. You're going to have a bushy pepper plant, which is ideal. Doing it once and creating two, the fork, is optimal though. It's really great. So what do? You're a first year pepper grower and you don't want to kill your plants. Well, if you haven't started your seed yet, I'd recommend starting about 10 to 50% more than you were planning on doing it, so that you can use that 10 to 50% and prune it. Try it. Don't use it on your whole harvest if you don't want to. You don't have to trust me completely, but go ahead and try it with those test plants and just see how they do. If you've already started seed and say you have 10 plants, go ahead and do it with 2 to 4 of them. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to lose a few plants. What's the best that's going to happen? You're going to double or triple your harvest and your yields. So it's really worth the try. I hope you guys go ahead and give it a try. If you do, let me know how your peppers turn out. I will be doing some update videos right here on YouTube, Facebook, and plantbasedgabriel.com. So don't miss them. Make sure you hit the subscribe and like button and go join the newsletter, I guess you could call it, on the website. But I am Plant-Based Gabriel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video, either in my kitchen cooking vegan recipes or on the farm growing some great produce very soon.